Okay, well, there we go. The recording button is hit. Just as an introduction again, Scott Gallagher here with Local Marketing Source, and this is for our monthly webinar with Josh Nelson. I'm very excited for this webinar for several different reasons. And as a matter of fact, I think that this is going to be most likely our most exciting webinar we've got. Josh has actually put together a presentation. And when we start to talk about this presentation, the value that you're going to get from it. Now, if we go back to when I started, I came to the United States in 2005. I got married. I didn't have my green card right away, and so I couldn't work. But I could start a business and I could create jobs as long as I paid my taxes, and that's what I did. And I just naturally sold this service that I was passionate about with my marketing background. I had to service and sell something. There's my dog going. Joe's coming back. I had to service something. And so I worked with the people I knew. I had sold software for several years in the transportation industry. And so I just went back to my old contacts, and I did everything that I knew that I had done before that other companies had done. I had to go to trade shows. I had to set up a booth at these trade shows. I had to network at these trade shows. I had to build relationships with the cards and follow up with them. I later learned autoresponder systems and different types of ways to communicate with people, but my tool was the telephone, old school. And ultimately that developed into me becoming a dominant player in that niche. I was the only company in these trade show events, and ultimately I was the go-to guy. I gained and earned the opportunity for speaking engagements. I wrote articles that ended up in the trade publications for this industry, and ultimately ended up working with a business very closely with ownership in that industry on a national front. Now, Josh has been a student for some time. He, very similar to myself, has some sales experience and tended to follow a different or a similar approach of targeting a specific niche. Now, what Josh is going to bring to the table is a lot more different ideas and experiences that he's gone through in the last 2.5 years. And what's impressive is Josh's agency does 7 figures, or is on track to do 7 figures over the next 12 months. That's over $1 million in business. And he's been able to acquire that over a 2.5-year period by dominating a specific niche. It's a very simple niche. I'll let Josh share that if you don't know it already. Everybody has got this niche in their local town, and there's many other niches to be able to work with. And on a national front, not that I'm encouraging anybody to compete against Josh in this specific niche, but there'd likely be room for it should there be direct competition. Mind you, there's dozens and dozens and dozens of other niches for LMS students to be able to go after, and others that are extremely similar to the one that Josh is in. So I think that this presentation is going to be very, very powerful of the fact that we're going to respect his territory, but at the same time be able to capitalize and leverage some of the strategies he's developed and utilized and what he's learned from the Local Marketing Source. And so on that note, I am going to go ahead and clear my screen off here. Got to make Josh a and Josh is now sharing his screen, and he's unmuted, so we should be able to hear him.
Awesome. So you guys can hear me loud and clear? Just give me a nod.
Yeah, we sure can, man. I got you over at this, and how you doing, man?
Good, doing great. And yourself?
Oh, well, can't complain. If it's not one thing, it's another. But that's the nature of business.
No doubt.
The beauty of it.
No doubt. Well, thank you very much for that introduction. Yeah, I mean, really, like Scott said, I came through this program, learned how to do local internet marketing, learned how to do search engine optimization for local business, and got my confidence in the ability to fulfill those services and have grown our company to a pretty solid level. And so I want to give back, and I want to share some of the strategies and techniques that have worked well for us that I feel very confident will work well for you in your space as you try and grow and take your company to the next level. And so I put together this presentation called How to Dominate Your Niche by Establishing Expert Status Through Authorship. And so some of you have heard bits and pieces of, where we've come from and where we started, but I wanted to share just a little bit about our transition. Back at the beginning of 2011, we started a local SEO company called Click Incorporated, and it was going to be full service, everything Scott teaches for our local market. And so when we started at the beginning of 2011, we didn't have any clients. We felt pretty confident we could provide results because of the training that we had done, but we're kind of just getting started. And then we hit the ground running. We implemented a lot of the strategies that we found through Scott and through other sources, and quickly grew that to $29,000 per month in recurring revenue, and we're pretty excited about that. By the end of 2012, this past year, we were at $69,000 in recurring revenue, and as of right now, based on some clients that we've been adding on a monthly basis pretty consistently, we're at $92,000 per month in recurring revenue, which puts us on pace for over $1 million per year in annual revenues. And this is just a screenshot from inside Infusionsoft. If you use Infusionsoft for your billing, you can see that's 69 active clients for a total of $92,000 in recurring revenue. So it's real exciting, and what I want to do is share what we did in order to grow at that velocity and develop our company, which is now a real bricks and mortar business where we've got a team of eight full-time employees, and we've got a real office here in South Florida, and we've got things going, not just from a marketing perspective, but from an implementation perspective. And I definitely want to thank Scott, because as we went from that first year where we had $30,000 in recurring revenue, we were saying, oh man, we need to start to develop a team. Does it make sense to hire? Does it make sense to outsource? I think there was even a webinar just like this where Scott asked me some questions, and we were able to brainstorm live on one of these sessions, and that's what helped move us to that next level. We started building the team and making sure we had the right resources in place to fulfill best-in-class services for our clients. And so what was the process? Starting in that first year, we just wanted to get our first couple clients, right? We were starting at zero. We knew we needed to have enough clients so that we could pay ourselves a salary and be able to survive. And so we started out just selling to anybody. And we joined BNI, we joined the Chamber of Commerce. I was making cold calls on a daily basis, doing door-to-door stop-ins, and really the chase was on, trying to find just about anybody that we could find that would hire us for our services. But somewhere along the way, we stumbled across the vertical. And I think this was prompted by Scott talking about how he got most of his clients in the transportation industry. I said, well, if that works there's no reason we couldn't pick a vertical and become the experts in that vertical. And I think most of our primary vertical is plumbing and HVAC businesses, but we started to get some clients in that vertical, decided that, heck, this is a great space. We're going to try and develop expert status. And that's really where the momentum started to happen, where we're able to consistently get new clients and provide good results to those clients and keep them as long-term customers. So our churn level dropped a lot as we really established ourselves as the experts in our space. And as I look back and we look at, when we were doing just the generalist type services where we wanted to serve everybody in South Florida, whether it was the chiropractor, the dentist, the roofer, anybody that would pay for our services, it seemed like the sales resistance was a lot higher because everyone wanted to see who we'd work with that was similar to them. So the dentist wanted to see other dental websites, wanted to see rankings for other dental companies, and for all intents and purposes wanted to say, let me talk to some of your dental clients. And if you're going in a lot of different verticals and one day you're talking to a dentist, the next day you're talking to a chiropractor, and the next day you're talking to a roofer, well, you don't really have anything to point to. You're basically saying, yeah, well, I know how to do this, And this is what I did for something that's totally unrelated to you. And it became a lot more challenging to convince those people that we could get results. And so what we found is, as we started focusing on a vertical, we developed case studies. We just started to develop client advocates. And we could go deeper as far as actually establishing expert status in that particular niche. And so what we found is, as you start to develop that expert status, your sales resistance drops significantly, because now they say, wow, not only do they talk our language, not only do they have examples and case studies, but I can actually talk to some of the people that are in businesses just like mine that have used them and gotten good results. And so when you've got that in place, you become a lot more attractive to the people that you're trying to sell to, and you can charge a much higher rate because you're worth more, right? So how can you establish expert status in your vertical? I think that most of you at this point should be saying, yeah, I definitely need to have a vertical. If you've been doing this for any period of time, you should have one or two clients, at least that you've worked with and maybe gotten some good results, and you can start to see whether you're going to resonate with that specific vertical or not. But the beauty of having a specific vertical or a target market that you're serving is that now you can set up expert status by creating specific content for that vertical. And so when I say specific content, you're a member of Scott's program, so you've got access to great training on how to do local SEO, how to leverage Google Maps, how to do social media marketing, how to create video content that's valuable for your clients. And I'm sure you do reading outside of just the LMS program. So I'm sure you're reading books on local internet marketing, about marketing in general. Well, as you have a vertical, what you can do is you can take all of that content and convert it through the lens of that vertical. So if you say, I'm going to go after realtors for whatever reason, you can take those same techniques, local SEO strategies, and say, well, here's how you would leverage Google Maps as a realtor. Here's how you would leverage social media marketing as a realtor. And so you're creating content that resonates very deeply with that specific niche, which is going to help you rank better in the search engine. It's going to make you more relevant. And you can, with that content, develop a white paper of some sort. Something that, here's the 10-point checklist on how any realtor should be marketing themselves online, and have a place through Instant Customer or Infusionsoft where you can drive people in your niche to the site, have them enter their name and email address in exchange for that white paper, and then do email marketing to them, further establishing your expert status and really getting those people to raise their hand and say, man, you've put out great information, you obviously understand my industry, I want to hire you. And that's kind of the formula that's worked really well for us. So we started creating the content in plumbing, we got to a dominant position on the search engines where someone types in plumber SEO, plumber internet marketing, we ranked well. All that traffic is now driven to a white paper that's specifically written for that industry, where they can enter their name and email address, get dripped on via email for a period of time, and then let the cream rise to the top. The people that are interested in hiring, the people that are interested in having an expert do it for them, literally will respond or call in and say, hey, how much would it cost to have you do all this stuff for me? Beyond that, you have the ability to really go deep within the vertical and get involved in an offline sense. And so in any vertical, there are industry associations. So within realtors, let's just say there's a realtor association both at the city level, the state level, and the national level. And it's the same for dentistry, it's the same for chiropractic, it's the same for just about any niche. There are specific associations, and those associations have monthly meetings, annual meetings, quarterly meetings. And so you want to start by exhibiting at their events. So, if you're going after dentistry, you'd contact your local dental association, find out when their monthly meeting is, tell them you'd like to pay to have a booth in the back, and go a couple times and just start to get involved. So people see your face and they start to recognize who you are. From there, you can start to position yourself to speak at these events. So if you can do a presentation at the local event and talk about internet marketing for dentists or for realtors or for whatever vertical you're targeting, That gives you a lot of expert status, and it also helps you to move up the ascension ladder from speaking at a local level, where you might be talking to 30 or 40 in your niche, to, let's say, a state level, where you might be talking to 100 to 200, possibly at some point to speak at the national convention, where you could be speaking in front of thousands of people in your vertical. And you can do the same thing with webinars. What I've found, not just in plumbing, but in other industry associations, all of these associations hang their hat on being able to train the people in their space. So they're going to be providing training as part of membership in the association. But they're always shy on training. So if you offer to add value to them and provide training that their members can benefit from, and in this case, obviously you're going to train them on how they can leverage social media to get more patients or more customers, how they can leverage Google Maps to get ranked better, etc. That's adding value. It also gives you the ability to get in front of your audience in an expert position. But what we found is the ultimate strategy for really positioning yourself as an expert is to become the author. And when you think about it, who's the authority in any space? Who's the person that you look to? Okay, this is the guy that knows what he's doing. And it's either the author or the speaker. And I really feel like the author gives you ultimate authority. So you want to be able to say that we wrote the book on, you fill in the blank, on internet marketing for roofing companies, on internet marketing for dentists, on internet marketing for realtors. It gives you instant expert status. And of course, you can see in the picture there on the left, I'm holding a copy of our book, The Complete Guide to Internet Marketing for Plumbing Contractors. And it's, it will give you instant expert status. It's a major differentiator. If you're talking to that dentist and you're coming in like you do now as a generalist and saying, yeah, we do internet marketing for, for local businesses here in your area. And then somebody comes in behind you and says, hey, I'm the expert in internet marketing for dentists. As a matter of fact, I recently spoke at the local association, and here's a copy of my book, The Complete Guide to Internet Marketing for dental practices. Which do you think they're going to choose? They're going to choose the expert. They're going to choose the guy that really understands their space deeply, and the guy that wrote the book. So it's a major differentiator that will help you stand out, and it will also get you the opportunity to speak at more of these events. And so I talked about, if you get the opportunity to speak at the local level, the national level, that gives you even more expert status. With a book that you publish that's available on Amazon or that's available on Barnes and Nobles, you can send a copy of that book to the association director and say, hey, we wrote the book and I've conducted a couple of these training sessions. I'd like to come out and speak at your next event. You're going to get those types of opportunities because you have a book, and you're going to become magnetically attractive to your niche. I think it's clear, but I want to harp on the point that the generalist isn't really resonant with anybody. You have to run, you have to chase, you have to get in front of people, where when you're the expert in a niche or in a vertical or whatever you want to call it, you become magnetically attractive. People are seeking you out. People are trying to do business with you as opposed to vice versa. And of course, you can charge more. Your sales ratios are significantly higher in that you're not convincing them. They're trying to convince you that they're the right kind of client that you would want to deal with. And you have the ability to go after a national audience as opposed to just a local audience. And so as opposed to just dealing with that 25-mile radius around your office or that 3-city area, you can be dealing with people throughout the United States and internationally because you're the expert in that specific topic. And so you get to be a lot more efficient with your time. As opposed to driving all around town to meet with people in person, you can be doing meetings over the phone and over the web. So what are some options for getting published? Because this may be a new concept for some of you. Some of you, this might be old hat, but there's a couple things you can look at to get published. You can get picked up by a major publishing house, which they actually give you a check and say, hey, we'd like to have you write a book for us. And I would tell you that the probability of you getting picked up by a publishing house and getting a check to write your book is not very high. You're not a celebrity. you don't have a PhD, so you probably don't want to, spend a lot of your time hoping to get picked up by a publishing house. You can self-publish, and so self-publishing would be to write up a version of your book on Word and then design it and then print it as needed. And that's an option, but it doesn't really add nearly as much credibility because it's not on Amazon, it's not on Barnes and Nobles, and you can say we got a book, but anybody can do a book. There's also the option to pay a book development service like Advantage Media Group that lets you talk your book. If you're familiar with Dan Kennedy and GKIC, this is a big advertiser inside GKIC, and they'll actually interview you and help to pull the content out of you and then help you promote the book. So I mean, there's a lot of different options available for getting a book published. And the hurdle might be, man, well, how much does something like this cost? I think that there's definitely a benefit to having a book. I don't know if I can write one, and I don't know if I can afford to make it happen. So I want to talk through both of those. If you use a service like Advantage, it's going to cost you somewhere between $10,000 and $15,000 for their services, right? For them to help pull the content out of you, help you develop what you need to develop, and then in any case, you're probably thinking that you're going to have to make a large upfront purchase of your books. So they're not just going to run a handful of books. They probably want you to buy 5,000 or 10,000. And if they cost you $5 each, that's a lot of money that you're not necessarily in a position to invest. What if it didn't cost a dime up front, right? What if you could write your book, get it published in a credible space, and it didn't cost you any money, and you could start to leverage this credibility in the real world? Well, there's a wonderful service that we came across called Amazon Create Space. And it's actually a service of Amazon. You just go to www.createspace.com, and it gives you the ability to publish your book directly through Amazon and get on Amazon.com with your book, have it accessible to a number of different places. And the way this works, you write your book. I'm going to talk a little bit about some best practices on how to come up with the content for your book, but I want you to know the cost hurdle should not be a hurdle. If you can come up with the content, then you can have a book on Amazon that gives you that expert status. So what you do is you write your book in Microsoft Word and convert it to PDF. You upload your cover and your content. So there's going to be a cover graphic for your book, kind of like the one you see me holding. Either you're going to have to design that or you're going to have to pay someone to design it. And then you pay on demand as your books are purchased. So again, you're not buying 1,000 or 5,000. You're literally paying on demand as those books are purchased. You get a free ISBN number, which is the barcode that's on the back of your book that makes it completely unique. And your book is on Amazon.com. Now, the cool part about this is you want to have access to your books so you can hand them out to your prospects, so that you can mail them out with your direct mail, so that you can mail them to your top prospects after they raise their hand. You can actually get these books because you're the author and you're going to be printing them on demand for as little as $2.50 to $3 per book. I believe we pay $2.75 for ours. It's about 90 pages as the author. Now, if you go to Amazon, it sells for $14.95, but as the author, you can buy direct access to your books. $2.50, that is less than what you might pay for a nice brochure, which really adds no value. Where if you can send somebody a copy of your book, I mean, it just gives you so much more credibility. And there's no minimums. So again, you're not having to buy 5,000 copies. You can say, hey, I want 100 of these books so that I can hand them out as I go to networking events. Right there. I mean, it's a very affordable thing and a very affordable way to position yourself as the expert. And so obviously, there's a copy of our book, as you can see it on Amazon.com, Complete Guide to Internet Marketing for Plumbing Contractors. You get the name of the authors in there, your reviews, and people can go right to Amazon.com and order the book. But you can also drive people to the site. So, in our promotion, we always say we wrote the book on internet marketing for this space, and we can promote it, and people can go there and they can see, that there it is right there on Amazon.com. So how do you write the book? You might be thinking, man, I like the idea. I can see now how I can get the book published and give myself that credibility. But how do I come up with this content? And I would say you have the knowledge in your head. If you've gone through Scott's training, if you've read it, all these books, which I'm sure you have on internet marketing, on salesmanship, you have the knowledge. Don't copy and paste it. Don't try and look to some ghostwriter to write it for you. Sit down, put your own spin on the content, and write it. It's really not that complicated. And really what you want to do is start with a chapter outline. So think about the main things that somebody would need to do within your vertical in order to be successful online, and write a chapter outline. Right? Maybe chapter 1 is how to set up your website. Number 2 is how to optimize your website for search. Number 3, let's just say, is how to optimize for the Google map. Number 4 is how to leverage social media. You get the idea. So come up with the chapters and then start writing your content. And you don't necessarily have to write it. Some people are great writers and they can sit down and they can type, and that's great. Other people, like myself, don't like to write. I mean, I like to write and I'm fine with that, but I prefer to talk. I prefer to be on video. And so what I found, it's great to talk. You can just talk about a specific topic like you would to one of your prospects, like you would to one of your customers. Save it as an audio file. Send it out to a transcription service like castingwords.com. Castingwords.com charges you $1 per minute for transcriptions. So if you talk for 30 minutes, that's only $30, and it's going to be a lot of pages of content on any specific topic. So don't try and back yourself into a corner thinking, oh, I have to write all this. You don't. Talk about your specific topic, have it transcribed. Obviously, there's going to be some massaging to it because the way you talk, some cases, a little different than what you would write. So you need to go back in and massage it, but it's a lot easier to massage spoken word than, in some cases, than it is to try and write everything from the ground up. Then you create your graphics. So literally you create a cover graphic and a back graphic, and you upload it to CreateSpace. And they have an approval process where they'll look at it, and within a matter of days, your book will be approved, available on Amazon.com, available for your prospects to see and say, wow, you guys are the experts in this space, and available for you to buy at a very low price, an amazing credibility tool that you can put in your toolkit, start to mail out and hand out as you go about your prospecting process. So a couple best practices on this. I would say really don't overthink it. It's real easy to say, oh man, I want to write a book, but I got to write my chapter list, and I've got to come up with the content, and I got to separate a year of my life in order to get this thing done. And if it helps, don't expect a lot of people to actually read it. This is, it might sound counterintuitive, but this is one of the things that my business partner and I told ourselves often, is that, listen, probably no one's ever going to read this book all the way through. It's not going to sell 10,000 copies on Amazon.com or anywhere else. It's really just something that we can have as a credibility symbol, as a positioning process. And so, yeah, some people will read it. You don't want it to be garbage. You want it to be good quality content. But don't overthink it, right? Take the information that you already have, the information that you're already conveying to your top prospects, put it into a book format, and get it out there. Really helps to set a deadline. So if you commit to writing this book, don't just say, okay, I'm going to do this at some point. Set a hard deadline. Give yourself 3 months, give yourself a month, whatever it is, set the deadline. What we found is we could have set the deadline, 3 months and have knocked it out. I think we gave ourselves 6 months to get it done, and we kind of twiddled our thumbs a little bit, and then right onto the last week when it was time to get the thing done, we sat down, we closed ourselves in the office, and we knocked it out. So set a deadline. You don't have to make the deadline all that far out. Set an aggressive deadline. Get this done. The sooner you have it finished, the sooner you can start to reap the benefits and start to leverage some of the marketing tactics I'll be sharing with you in a second. Other thing, make sure you get it proofread. So don't just take this and push it out on Amazon. Make sure you have a secondary person other than yourself read through it, find the grammatical errors, find the things that could potentially make you look foolish. Because if you do it yourself and you don't have anybody else read it, it is going to be riddled with errors, no matter how good you are at writing. So what can you do with the book once you have it? What can you do once you've got the book published? It's on Amazon. You've got 200 or 500 copies in your office. Well, obviously you can give it to your prospects and treat this as your business card. As you meet people that are good fits for your services, hand them a copy of the book. It only costs you $2 to $3, and it's a huge credibility factor. You can send it out as part of the direct mail effort to your top prospects. And so, if you've read Chet Holmes, he talks about the Dream 100 initiative. Have a group of your top prospects that you're constantly touching with some type of value add communication. When you're in a niche, right, and you wrote a book specific to that niche, you can start to go after the top players in that specific vertical. And as you do so, you can send them a really good piece with a copy of your book, a letter, and possibly what we do is a DVD talking about the fact that you'd like to work with them and why you think you can add value. And we found that sending the book gives you instant credibility, and you're more apt to have your message received, whether it's the letter or the DVD itself. Sending it to your top referral partners. So within our space, there are people that have great relationships in plumbing, that are like the top coaches in the space or the top vertical training organizations. We'd like to send our books to them in order to help them know, okay, well, there are some really good companies out there in internet marketing, and get them to refer us to the people that they have credibility with. And then, of course, leverage it to get speaking opportunities. As you know what the associations are in your space, local, statewide, national, you can send a copy of the book to the director of the association and really make it clear to them that you're here, you're available to speak, and you're an expert, and we're willing to add value to their community, and you'll start to get these speaking engagements, which are extremely powerful for positioning yourself and getting new clients in your space. And then give it as a handout. If you're exhibiting at the trade show, don't be cheap. If you think about the tchotchkes that people pass out at their booths, just a little squeeze toy that people hand out can cost somewhere between $1 and $4 per item. You now have the opportunity to hand out a copy of your book signed by the author, which is not going to get thrown away, and that book will position you as the expert. So, we found this to be extremely powerful. You've seen that our business has grown, and this is a big piece of what we've done. Writing the book, establishing ourselves as the experts, and then just leveraging the tools that we have in order to bring on new clients in our space on an ongoing basis. And so, Scott, I don't know if we want to open up for questions, or where do you want to take the session from here?
Well, first off, Josh, that is just awesome. There's a couple of points and a couple of questions that I have myself, and what you've done here. Evidence speaks for itself, and what you've been able to accomplish into the plumbing industry is really, really profound and interesting. And what's awesome about it is it's not a new strategy. This is the way sales has transpired for a long time. And you look any type of real, once you've gotten into the industry, I'm sure you probably realized how many niche players there were for different products and services.
Yeah.
And that really amazed me once I got into a specific industry. It just blew me away how many specific niche players, whether, in my industry, whether it was insurance providers. I'm sure that there's insurance providers that target plumbers, and so forth. And so why not marketing services and development and all of that. Now, one thing I haven't done that I'm very curious about is actually producing a hard copy of your book. And you laid out different options, from self-publishing to this website solution, the print on demand. That's something that's relatively new in the last 4 or 5 years that authors could actually do. And so, do you take these hard copies of these books and then lay them out on your trade show booth?
Absolutely. Yeah, so we print them in stacks of 500, and we take them to our trade show. We have them stacked up. Whenever I speak, I've got them in the back, and I hand them out. So yeah, we leverage the physical copy. We're not trying to hang our hat on the digital version. We really want to get the hard copy version of our book in their hands.
And that's a big deal. I think that's taking this to the next step. That's really impressive, having that. And you'd also mentioned that you sign it as the author.
Mm-hmm.
And you said that way it's not going to get thrown away. I thought that was a very powerful strategy to keep it in their hands. Now, do you have any idea of your metrics behind this strategy, or can you didn't get into a lot of that, but for example, if I'm at a trade show and I hand out 100 books, we know, or you get 250 business cards or 50 business cards. How many of those turn into leads, and then how many of those leads ultimately turn into the sales that you're working with? What type of volume is required to achieve this 90 grand of recurring revenue?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could say, to an exact number what those metrics are, and it's a lot harder to quantify in a trade show type of environment than it is in our direct mail. So our strategy for direct mail is that we're sending this book out with a DVD to the cream of the crop in a specific city on a weekly basis. And what we're finding is if we send out 100 copies of these books with the DVD, we're typically bringing in 2 to 3 new clients from that effort. And so it's proven to be very effective.
Yeah, that's fantastic. 2 to 3 new clients. That's a big deal. That's that's $30,000 or $40,000 a year that you just added to your line. So each effort you can almost bank on that. And that's how we felt when we go to a trade show. I'd invest. I always figured between $3,000 and $5,000. And if we could acquire 3 to 5 customers, we're well ahead. The numbers are pretty big to get to these trade shows. How much does it cost you? Do you figure? Are we in an alignment, or is the plumbing industry is more expensive or less expensive?
Yeah, I think we're about the same. The only difference is on the national events versus the local events. So we can get to a local event like a state chapter, like the state of Texas or the state of Florida, for between $2,000 and $3,000 all in. Where the national event, which only happens once or twice a year, we can get to that type of event, and it's going to cost us between $5,000 and $7,000. But again, you get a lot more people, a lot more opportunity, and so as long as that's generating enough revenue to justify the investment, then I'll make that investment all day long.
Now, I'm kind of curious. You had mentioned state events. And you had mentioned both the state of Florida and the state of Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And in my history, in the past, I've only participated in 3 state events.
Mm-hmm.
Of the 47 other states, they just were not that lucrative. I'm wondering if you are the same, but that would be Florida, Texas, and California. Sometimes Illinois, for being relatively large, and sometimes New York.
Yeah,
State of New York.
Those states you just mentioned are at least in our space, have been good, well attended, and obviously the success of it has increased a lot where I have the opportunity to be one of the speakers at the event. So I've got a booth, but I'm also running one of the sessions on internet marketing for your business type of thing.
Oh, that's really cool. I say the exact same things about our industry, same states, as well as the people. The events are very well attended. Texans are excellent business people.
Mm-hmm.
Floridians are fantastic, and I like Californians, but I personally just can't do business with East Coast people very well. Give me the Midwest, West Coast, no problem. Okay. Now, one of the biggest challenges of this for people to start out is both monetary, the money to invest into a booth and to get out, and number 2, the actual time to build this content. How large is your book, and how how long did it take you to put it together? Did you go through the transcription service, or did you write it yourself? You had mentioned you don't like writing.
Yeah, it was a mix. The book. So the first question is, the book is 84 pages, and so it's not huge, but it is a real book that prints to a nice size. It's not 8.5 by 11, but the smaller version. Some of it is checklist. So the last, I don't know, maybe 10 pages is a checklist, which gives you a nice book without having to write all of that much. So it's not a huge thing. Time-wise, it took us about 3 months of heads down attention to getting it done, and most of it was driven by our blog content. So over the first several months, we were writing how to this, how to that within your plumbing business. So we were able to take that blog content, which was basically free, put it into the chapter format, beef it up a little bit, add some images, and there you have most of your content for your book. If I did it again, I would use the transcription service. I would take my webinars that I do on specific elements and then transcribe that and use that as my chapter. I'd have a lot more than 80 pages.
Yeah. How many people do you think actually get through that of your prospects?
You know, initially my thought process was nobody was going to buy the book and nobody was going to read it. We actually find we get 5 or 6 purchases off Amazon on a monthly basis, which blows my mind because I didn't think anybody would buy it. And I've had people tell me they read it cover to cover. So
that's good.
I didn't expect it. We've actually just recently landed a major plumbing company in the Jacksonville area, and the marketing director had purchased the book, read the book, called us, and then hired us to do their internet marketing.
Well, there you go. Well, that's fantastic, Josh. I'm just thoroughly impressed with what you've put together here, what experience you've gained over the last few years, taken some of my experiences and run with it, and it's just beautiful. I'm gonna see. Nick has said something here. Nick's got a question. He says, Josh, have you considered hiding a special offer in the book to reward educated buyers?
Yeah, I mean, we tried to position the book in a way that it gave value, right? Somebody could take this and implement it because we don't want to not deliver. I mean, somebody bought a book on internet marketing, they wanted to have strategies they can implement. But at the end of each chapter is an example of how this is played out for some of our clients, and then a call to action at the very end of the book that says, give us a call if you'd like to have us implement these strategies for you. And so it does have a strong call to action at the end in that, now you've read the book, you've got the information, but do you have the time, the wherewithal, and the expertise to really make it happen? And so it does take that reader to the place where they'd say, all right, let's just hire these guys and get it done right.
Yeah, do you describe at all maybe what value they would get from an assessment of some sort?
Yeah, I mean, it talks about the fact that they can call us, we'll do a complete review of their existing website, their online marketing activities, and show them where we think there's room for opportunity. And so it does kind of position it in that way.
Yeah, okay. That's great. I was actually just thinking of some of the material that we've got and the call to actions that are on it. And then, of course, a digital version, what's nice is you can click the link in the hard copy. You may want to create something rather simple, such as your domainname.com/
assessment or something like that.
Assessment of some sort, yeah. Other things that are nice to do as well are that could add to some of this is, and I don't know if you do this, but event-specific landing pages. And that's really easy to do when you've got a WordPress website that's set up and you've gone to an event And then once people come back, the URL or the call to action URL brings them to a landing page that's specific to that event. You throw up a picture or two, and that tends to personalize it. And from there, you can capture their information as well.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
We've really enjoyed that. Such as, Josh Nelson, imc.com/niche or plumbing. Okay. You guys can go ahead and raise your hands. I see we've got some decent attendance on this call. Or you can post questions that you've got. I mean, Josh was very, very thorough with his presentation, and I mean, like I say, I'm struggling trying to find anything to add to it other than just ask questions of clarity. But that's amazing, Josh. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take this recording here. This is going to be a piece that's available to LMS members. I think that this is one of the strongest pieces of information that anybody could leverage and learn from Local Marketing Source, Josh. So I'm very, very thankful that you've got this, and just continue to drive and leap forward. And when you start to hit 6 figures a month, let us know.
I will. I really appreciate the opportunity, and I appreciate the training that you've offered to help us do this.
Oh, well, it's been a real pleasure, Josh, right from day one of working with you. I assure you of that, man. This is why we do what we do, and to see people like you that have just literally transformed their lives in the last couple of years. What you've got available at your disposal now is very, very different than, think back 2.5 years ago what you were doing and selling and working every day, and you had little one on the way and a family started, and kudos for you, my friend.
Thank you.
Good. All right. Well, if there's no more questions, I'll just go right back to the attendee list one last time. No hands up. I will end this call. Thanks again, Josh.
Thank you.